Welcome back to the channel. My name is Ellaine, also known as Nurse Who Invests. Today, I want to talk about how I budget my paycheck as a nurse. And truth enough, I don't really budget my paycheck, and let's talk about it. So I really want to be a budgeting girly, but it's just very time consuming for me. And budgeting by definition just means that you're planning or writing down how much you're going to be spending your money each month. And I think it's so important to be intentional with money, but at the same time, I am at that point in my life where I think that you cannot really budget your way to wealth or to being rich. I think I'm at this point where I should be focusing more on making more money. But I want to talk about like how I budget like as a nurse practitioner now, because I am still very intentional. I still know where my money is going. I think that if you are like me who thinks that budgeting is a little time consuming, like I cannot just sit down and like assign every number to every single expenses, but you still believe that you need to be financially aware and you still want to work on like allocating your expenses the right way and being very mindful, very demure of your money, then this video may be for you. So here are the things that you can do if budgeting is not for you. First of all, you have to set clear goals and know what your money is going to be used for. Now, there is a really good quote by James Clear. He wrote The Atomic Habits right there. One of my favorite books. He said, "It's hard to change your habits if you never change the underlying beliefs that led to your past behavior. You have a new goal and a new plan, but you haven't changed who you are." So I think that having a good idea on what your goals are when it comes to making money or like even managing your money is really, really important. It's also very important to know your values and making sure that this align with your goals. And one of the ways that I keep it simple is by having like short-term and long-term financial goals. So I would say, what do I need the money for now? And what are my goals 5-10 years from now when it comes to money? And I think that this also gives you an idea on like where you should be keeping your money, if you should be keeping it in a bank or in a high yield savings account, or if you should be investing your money. So I think that short-term plans just means like kind of like your emergency fund, something that you're going to need in the next 3 to 6 months. And for me, one of my short-term goals is to pay off my car. Like I'm still paying off a car right now that I have immaturely bought back in 2019, and it was like a 6 year loan payment plan. And to be honest with you, the interest just keeps on piling up. So one of my short-term goals is to really pay it off, and that is part of my budgeting or like how I view and spend my money. And on the other hand, my long-term goals is to retire when I reach 45. I do have a video about how I'm going to be retiring at 45 as a nurse practitioner or as a nurse. You can check the video out in here. But that is my long-term goal. So having those two things, like those are specific ones that I have right now, and having that helps me keep track of like my money and what I should be doing with my money and being intentional with it, right? So I want you to think of like your short-term and long-term goals. So the second thing is to be financially aware. So I got a lot of questions from other nurses asking me, how do you get the most of your paycheck as a nurse? Like, how do you get more money from your paycheck as a nurse? Or how do you not live paycheck to paycheck as a nurse? And to be honest with you, you have to know how much your money you're making or like how much you're spending, because it just doesn't make any sense to make the most out of your paycheck if you are spending like 90% of it on things, right? So being financially aware is so important. Like I used to sit down before and actually like track everything because it makes me more aware of my spending. But nowadays I just use a finance app. Right now I use Empower and also Monarch Money. Empower is more for network tracking, and Monarch Money is more for like being able to like see my transactions with my husband, because we do kind of share our finances. But anyways, so those are the two apps that I have, and they're free. Actually, Monarch Money may just be a free trial if you click on my link. Empower, on the other hand, is free. So I really recommend that you, first of all, download these apps and like know where your money is going. Number 3 is cut down on the big expenses. If you know me, I am not going to give up my $5, or actually it's like $8 lattes now before work. Like sometimes I would stop by a coffee shop to get my coffee because that's something that gets me through the day, or sometimes I just make it at home like right now. So I know that there has been a lot of like social media talk about the reason why you're not rich is because you are spending a lot on like lattes and avocado toast and all that stuff. But honestly, if you're gonna cut down on your expenses, cut down on the big 3 household expenses. And these are housing, transportation, food, and groceries. And according to the Bureau of Labor and Statistics, the expenditure for these 3 categories per household is around 60 to 70% of total household spending. So I think that you don't need to sacrifice your coffee. You don't need to sacrifice the little things that makes you happy. But if you can cut down on this big 3, it could make a big difference in your spending or in your budget as a nurse. So number 1 is housing. I'm going to talk a little bit about this. And I live in California. And whenever somebody comes up to me and say, oh yeah, you live in California. Yes, you make a lot as a nurse, but you spend a lot too. I would like to let you know that like California is not just the Bay Area or Los Angeles. There are a lot of places in California that you can work as a nurse and still make good money. I used to live in Sacramento, like around Rancho Cordova, and I was making like around Bay Area pay, like close to Bay Area pay, not like that. Like this is around like back in 2016, 2017, and I was making $77 per hour. So I think that by cutting down on your cost of living, especially in housing, houses in the Bay Area ranges from like $1 million to $2 million. Like right now in San Jose, there's really not much houses that you can buy for that price because it's just so expensive to live there. So you can live in a lower cost of living area. I sacrifice a lot by moving to a lower cost living city, and I do not regret it at all. Like, first of all, my family lives here. My husband's family lives in the city, and we live in Central Valley, and our pay here is really good for the amount of expenses that we have as far as like housing. So yeah, if you can cut down on your housing expenses, that would make a big difference in your budget. So some other ways to decrease your housing cost on top of like moving to a lower cost living is maybe moving to a smaller house or apartment and just renting out your house or selling it. And you can also rent out a room, which for me, I'm personally not going to do because I don't like random strangers or people living in the same space as I am, which we can talk more about in another video. But that's something that I know one of my friends do. Like she rents out like one of her rooms in the Bay Area. So yeah, so those are some of the ways that you can like cut down on your housing expenses. And contrary to what most people think, owning a house is really not an investment. It is in some way a way to build equity, but the taxes, the fees, and the cost to maintain a house is really, really worth considering when making like the decision to make a house. Like for me, I love having a home. I love having a house. It's just something personally that I value. So that's why we bought a house. And also we have kids, right? If it's just me, then I'll probably just like rent an apartment somewhere. But that is something to keep in mind when it comes to like buying a house. So yeah, so that's housing. The second thing that you can cut down is transportation. So it's another major expenditure. And I think I cannot stress this enough. I had mentioned earlier that I'm still paying off my car that I bought back in 2021. And it is really a big mistake on my part, which, like, I don't think it's really a mistake. I use it to go to work and I use it to go back. I need a safe vehicle to travel to and from work. But if you live in a walkable city, just walk or bike to work if you can. Use public transportation if you can. And find a job sometimes that is closer to your house. Or you can even do like remote nursing, like work from home. You can even carpool with friends. So there are ways that you can cut down on your transportation expenses. And those are some to name a few. The third thing is food and groceries. So I know that I'm not gonna give up on my coffee every day, but you can also like opt out eating out, at least like once a week or something. You can cook at home, look for grocery stores that are cheap. Personally, I love Aldi's and Winco, and I also shop at Vaughn's because we do have a lot of coupons and all that stuff. We live close by to it. But yeah, so I mean, you don't have to necessarily sacrifice a lot when it comes to food and groceries, but you do need to be very mindful of how much you're spending when it comes to your groceries every week, because we spend a lot of time eating out like before, like to be honest with you. But nowadays, like we kind of have a no eating out week, like sometimes to do that, and utilize your family members too. Like my in-laws always cook food, so that helps us a lot with our food and groceries expenses. But yeah, so cutting down on those big three expenses can make a big difference in your budget as a nurse and how you can be more mindful with your money. The number three thing that I do to budget my paycheck is to pay myself first. Pay yourself first as nurses. And what do I mean by this? Pay yourself first means that you are setting aside money for savings and investments before you even pay your expenses. Automate most of my investments, and this is a way for me to really prioritize my own retirement and my own like financial well-being. And I think that is such a great way to be able to budget your money. If you look at your paychecks right now or your pay stubs, you probably see that you are already getting deducted for your 401k. So that's a way to kind of pay yourself first. But I myself like take it up a notch, and I actually automate my investments to go to my Roth IRA or my individual brokerage accounts or to my kids like 529 savings before I even pay my mortgages or my rent and all that stuff. And I know that I am coming from a place of privilege saying this, but it's not always like this before. And you may only be able to do like $10-50 right now to pay yourself, but that's all that matters. Like building that habit to paying yourself first kind of builds up over time. And like I said, like right now I'm very, very thankful for where I'm at now, because I'm able to like invest before I even have to spend for the things that I need to spend on. So yeah, so pay yourself first by automating your investments. And just so you can look, I do have like kind of a map of where my money goes as soon as my direct deposit hits my checking account. So this is actually like my automated map of like what happens when I get my paycheck in my checking account, like where it goes and all that stuff. You can see it in here. As you can see, it goes straight to my retirement investments, and then it goes to my expenses, and then to my kids' expenses. And so yeah, so having this like system really helps a lot to budget or like know where my money is going. And this is what I have been doing for many years. Lastly, I think that you should have a monthly date with yourself and sit down and see where your money is going and how much you're making and where you can improve when it comes to, your finances. And if you are sharing your finances with your spouse or with your husband or wife or partner, then it really helps to have this coffee dates. Like it really not only will put you guys in the same, financial goal, like working towards the same goal, but also being aware of where your money is going and being mindful for where it's going. And to me, that is really what budgeting is. And if you love budget templates, if you love sitting down and assigning money to where it's supposed to go every month, then kudos to you. But I am a busy mom. I have a business to run. I even hired, like CPA and a bookkeeper to help me with my business finances, because it's just very time consuming. And if you're like me, like having all these things in place, like number one, creating short-term, long-term goals. Number two, being financially aware by downloading just an app on your phone to look at your expenses and income. Number three, being aware of your big three expenses and cutting down on what matters. Number four, paying yourself first, and then number 5 is setting monthly coffee dates with yourself or with your partner. Those are the 5 things that I do to budget my paycheck as a nurse. If you want a breakdown of how much I really, make in my job as a nurse practitioner, comment down below if you want me to talk about that, because I'm all about financial transparency, but I am a big projector. That's my human design. If you know, you know. I do not like to share things that, it's not really, it's unsolicited, or, like I don't know if anybody would want to hear, but if you would love to know that breakdown, I would be happy to share. Comment down below. And budgeting really is a way to be intentional with your money, and it is a prerequisite to investing to wealth. And if you want to know the other things that I recommend my nursing colleagues and coworkers and students and audience to do before they invest, you can download my free prereqs to investing right here. And it's totally free. This is just a checklist on what you should be doing before you invest. Very important. So yeah, so I hope that this video is very helpful for you, and I hope to see you guys again. So yeah, I will see you in the next video, and bye.